Hello. In this video, we will be addressing a key concept. Is John D. Rockefeller a captain of industry or a robber baron? By Esther Alexander, Michaela Guevara, Ali Hussein, Michelle Mitchell, Kaylee Miranda, and Nicholas Perez.
What did John D. Rockefeller do? John D. Rockefeller was born in 1839. Rockefeller quickly became a captain of industry and a wealthy businessman. In 1867, he entered the then fledgling oil industry business by investing in a Cleveland, Ohio refinery. In 1870, he established the Standard Oil Company. The Standard Oil Company was an American oil-producing, transforming, refining, and marketing company. His company had major success, controlling 90% of the USA's pipelines and refineries by only the 1880s. In his later years, Rockefeller donated over $500 million to various philanthropy causes.
John D. Rockefeller obtained his fortune starting in 1863 when he decided to invest in the Cleveland, Ohio refinery. Next, in 1870, he established his Standard Oil Company, which led to his control of nearly 90% of the United States refineries and pipelines.
What did Rockefeller do with his fortune? Rockefeller invested in a refinery in Cleveland, Ohio while the oil business was still struggling. In 1870, he established his own company, the Standard Oil Company. The Standard Oil Company was an American oil-producing, transforming, refining, and marketing company. Rockefeller also lent loans with his fortune to the government when they needed money because they were going bankrupt, and donated over $500 million to various philanthropy causes such as education, science, and religious causes.
Difficulties he faced. Rockefeller ended up controlling 98% of all kerosene, which would be worth about $225 billion today. After being re-elected, Roosevelt filed dozens of lawsuits against dozens of trusts. Rockefeller ran to avoid being subpoenaed, but after his first grandson was born, he turned himself in and went to court. The court ruled that Standard Oil's unreasonable business practices violated the Sherman Antitrust Act, and Standard Oil was given 6 months to break up. Rockefeller also threatened Carnegie's dominance in the steel industry after buying the Mesabi mines. Rockefeller began supplying iron ore to Carnegie's competitors at rock-bottom prices, and then began planning to build a steel plant to rival Carnegie's. To end the competition, Carnegie bought up Rockefeller's steel in return for his exit from the industry. Final years. After Standard Oil broke up, 34 smaller companies formed in its place. These would later become Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron. Rockefeller was left with a net worth, in today's money, of $660 billion. Rockefeller retired from the oil business in the 1890s, became a philanthropist, and gave away the bulk of his fortune. Rockefeller donated more than $500 million to various educational, religious, and scientific causes, including funding the establishment of the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research.
Development of a yellow fever vaccine and the successful eradication of hookworm disease in the United States. Every year, Rockefeller also celebrated the anniversary of landing his first job, which he believed was more important than his actual birthday. Rockefeller also hired substitute soldiers to avoid Civil War combat, since he was the main source of income for his family and he was head of the family. He wasn't allowed to go in the war. Rockefeller also helped found the University of Chicago and Rockefeller University. The industrialists in 1882 began to donate money to the Atlanta Baptist Female Seminary, and the court ordered the breakup of the Standard Oil, which made Rockefeller hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's why Rockefeller was different from the rest.
The most impactful way that Rockefeller changed the future is through his Standard Oil Company. Without that company, he would have never figured out that gasoline is a byproduct of kerosene, and without gasoline, we wouldn't have anything to run our cars on.
One document that supports our position that John D. Rockefeller is a captain of industry is a direct quote from the man, John D. Rockefeller. It states that, "Having been endowed with the gift I possess, I believe it's my duty to make money and to use the money I make for the good of my fellow men according to the dictates of my conscience." It essentially says that he picks who he wants to give his money for the good of the men. So he wouldn't just give his money to a richer person. He would give his money to someone who deserves it or he feels that deserves the money. The essential question is, were the entrepreneurs of the Gilded Age captains of industry or robber barons? Our person, John D. Rockefeller, is considered to be a captain of industry. He was a captain of industry because he was, unlike a robber baron, an extremely generous person when it comes to money. Rockefeller gave $500 million, more than one-third of his total net worth, to multiple charities. The only reason he would be considered greedy would be that he created an oil monopoly. Some people did consider Rockefeller as a robber baron because he used unethical and illegal tactics to gain his wealth. But although oil monopolies are usually associated with robber barons, Rockefeller was an exception. Monopolies are created so robber barons can improve their business revenues